well. Hope you're enjoying your holiday breaks. First off, I want to say thank you so much for all the awesome response on my last video, my fight got. I wasn't really sure what the reaction would be. I wasn't even really thinking about the reaction, to be honest. I was just preparing for it. But everyone was so nice. I feel like 9 out of 10 comments were like really encouraging and positive and just really nice to see. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Always good to be encouraged. So yeah, that was nice. All right, I want to talk about edge blocking. By the way, who remembers this? I don't know if the Zoom is gonna get that, but who remembers this? Type in the comments below if you have one or you remember. Edge blocking in Chinese martial arts, as far as with weapons, specifically the sword. Now, of course, it's true. There's more than one way to deal with an attack that's coming at you. You could block with the flat of the blade, right? You could duck out of the way and avoid the sword blow entirely. You could stick with the sword. You could, one thing that I feel like not a lot of people kind of factor in, you could also just grab the enemy's arm. You have to get pretty close to hack someone with the sweet spot of a sword. So that seems to be something that a lot of cultures figured out as far as stopping in a sword attack. But I had to address edge blocking specifically with your edge, because I feel like this debate in Chinese sword arts, I guess you could say, pops up all the time. Like I see this all the time in comment sections, in forums, social media, articles even, you guessed it, and some people are saying you can't block with the edge because it'll damage your sword, or there's no evidence that people did, and then other people are saying you can, but they're not really providing any examples. So I thought I'd kind of try and end this discussion or debate once and for all. I mean, I'm all for ongoing discussion, but as far as seeing the same argument over and over again with no concrete examples, it's getting a little tiring for me. So here I am with a specific example. All right, so edge blocking. You can find it in Sundial Sword by Wong Hun Fun. So Sundial Sword, there is a form, but there are also two-person exercises as well. Boom. In one of those two-person exercises, there's a circular cut like this. Mantis catches cicada. You can use it to cut at people. But in the exercise, the two-person exercise, it's specifically spelled out. This person uses that cut against you. You fall back and you do the exact same thing and you cut at them as well. Here's what it looks like maybe in a less stylized performance as far as a defense. All right, here's the application. Austin is chopping in at my neck, or perhaps my waist, or perhaps my leg. It's coming from this side, the thread. Now, before I get distracted with this shiny, awesome thing that we all love swinging around, the footwork keeps me safe. So we're here, he's coming in, and I hopefully shouldn't even need my sword. Now I'm gonna use it as a backup because I want multiple things keeping me safe, but the footwork keeps me safe. Watch how if he's cutting from my leg, it's the first thing I try and yank out of there. If you want more information on footwork that keeps you safe, check out Foundations in the Ravenswood Academy store. Now, adding the edge block. We're here. It could be with a leap. It could be with just a step back. He cuts at my neck, and there it is. That's all there is to it. We're here. This could be with the waist level, or the leg. And that's kind of something like what you get from Wong Hun Fun's works on the sundial sword. So there you go. And that comes straight from Wong Hun Fun, a period source. I will say this is one reason why I spent so much time tracking down all those Wong Hun Fun books. Obviously, it's my lineage and I want to preserve the writings of the teachers that came before me, but it gives us insight. It gives us specific quotes and sayings that tells us how people thought about the art they were practicing. And Wong Hun Fun, you know, he was a pillar in that community. He was publishing books for everyone to see. He had like founding members of the Jingwu supporting him and writing calligraphy for him. If this had been some sort of huge no-no, Wong Hun Fun probably wouldn't have put it out there for the whole community to see. Wong Hun Fun is going to study under someone born in the 1800s, Lo Kuang-yu, who himself was from Shandong, and Lo Kuang-yu is also going to study under someone who is famous for sword knowledge, etc. Lo Kuang-yu and Wong Hun Fun are both going to teach the military sword for fighting. You go back even further and even more teachers are associated with the sword in that lineage. So if ever there was a kung fu master, Wong Hun Fun certainly is one. So here we go. Someone directly saying, hey, oppose that person's blade with your own. And again, there are other ways. Even in that form, there are multiple ways to defend against someone cutting you. You can fall back, you can stick, you can stop someone's arm with your own arm, etc. That's fine. The interesting thing about a cut as defense is that imagine you're cutting at me, you're cutting at my right side here, and I just block. I can do that, that's a valid block. But as soon as I block, you're then gonna what? You're gonna circle around and cut at something else, right? Imagine if instead of me just passively blocking, as you go to attack, you see this. You see a cut coming at you. I'm blocking now with a cut. And now you're having to worry about what I'm doing. This is flashing past your face, right? So blocking with a cut can have its own advantages. It's just one tool among many. And I'm not saying that we should stand in range of people and attack at their sword and cut and hack unskillfully, but I'm just saying it does exist, and there are even more examples in forms, not just oral, but like written accounts too. But it's the holidays. I'm gonna just put this one out. This one's pretty concrete, and if you'd like, you can hunt for the rest. Another thing I will say though is you can specifically use the edge to stop someone's sword and then grab their hand. My student lent me some sharp swords, thanks to Austin, and we demonstrated this. If you block with the flat, their sword goes flying by, which is fine, you could then cut at them. But if you block with the edge, notice how their sword stops because the edge bites into them. The edge bites into the sword. And then you have an opportunity to grab that hand. And you'll notice his arm is caught right there. So he stays there for a split second. I can move in and grab, or even just push and chop. And that's exactly what we see in the forms. Of course, I'd be actually standing underneath. I'm not going to trust these swords. But in slow motion, I'd be here. Because he's using, or because I'm using the edge bites in, it stops his hand for a split second. There's my moment. Here, in Yan Qingdao, when you do the final wrap and you wrap and you're guarding against, a cut from above or the angle or the side, you wrap. You can stop their sword. The final move of Yan Qingdao is after you wrap, you stick your hand out there to grab their arm because their arm has been stopped. If you use your flat, the sword goes flying by. You don't have an arm to grab. If you use your edge, it stops their arm, you grab their arm, and then you cut. So there you go. I think a lot of that knowledge was, some aspects of the sword stuff was lost. Because what seems to have happened is people had these village kind of empty hand boxing styles, and then they would be approached by someone else that they knew or who respected them, and maybe someone else who had a sword set, and they would learn that sword set, and then they had a sword set and their students learned the sword set, but they didn't have the generations of learning those moves, other people dying for those moves, all the kind of lessons in blood that some of those lineages crafted, who were actually like guarding caravans or working with swords, teaching soldiers to use swords. What else? And then someone else has said like, well, my teacher has looked at like 1,000 swords, and none of them have edge damage. Well, firstly, it's good that people are going to sources, written sources, and actual antiques. That's awesome. I think back in the day, there might have been too many people just making stuff up, so this is good, but you have to be able to interpret historical data correctly, right? So, there's a chance that, the term museum quality, there's a chance that museums and antiques that have lasted a long time or been treasured as heirlooms were kind of well taken care of, not used in battle. B, there's a chance, or thing number two, there's a chance that the swords have been repaired, so they could have had edge damage, but they were repaired. C, another thing is, this might be the most important thing. Imagine you find a record about a battle that involved a battle in China, let's say from the 1600s, and it involved 50,000 people on one side and 70,000 people on the other side. So there's like 120,000 soldiers, right? That means there's maybe at least 100,000 swords on the battlefield, maybe 120 if they all have swords, maybe more. Obviously there's going to be more in other garrisons in other parts of China, but what that means is, if you've examined 1,000 swords, congratulations, you've examined less than 1% of all swords that have ever existed, right? So I think that's good. I think it's good that people are like examining antiques. That's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, to then make a judgment and say, well, because these 1,000 swords don't have edge damage means people didn't hack with the edge against other swords. It's just not, I don't think it's feasible to say because the sample's too small. If you block with the edge, it is going to get damaged, but you should just survive and fix it later in a sword fight. I don't know if you've ever heard the stat that bone is like 20 to 40 times harder than concrete. So like when you cut at someone's skull, oh, what a horrible thought, right? When you cut at someone's skull, that's like a round concrete ball, only harder. I mean, your edge is going to get damaged. And I don't think anyone was ever denying that your edge is going to get damaged on armor or on bones or anything. It's just some people, I think, just weren't aware of the fact that there are edge blocks in China. I don't really like calling them edge blocks because it's more like a countercut, You're cutting and it goes by the face of the attacker, and it stops their sword, but it also gives them something to think about. And if they're in the way, or if they have a badly structured cut, they might even get cut too. So, if your teacher said that there weren't edge blocks, maybe they just didn't know, and that's okay. I'm still learning stuff too. I wouldn't have told you that Dadaos had a saw back. If someone showed me a modern example of that, I would have told them, yeah, that's fantasy, that didn't exist. And then lo and behold, there's a sawback Dadaos. So you never know what you're gonna find. Maybe you're just, if you heard someone say this, maybe they just didn't know. The thing about the whole Chinese sword art terms is that, we imagine China as maybe just China, this one big, massive country. But I mean, in reality, if you superimpose China over a map of Europe and you think about all the different cultures in Europe, that same thing kind of implies there were just so many different sword schools in China, so many different villages. People in Shandong might have been fighting with a blade entirely differently than people in Foshan, People came up with different theories, different techniques, different forms. So be careful about saying something didn't exist in Chinese sword arts, because, if you study a school of sword arts from Shandong or from wherever, that might be true. What you're saying might be true for one little geographical area in China, but then 100, 200, 300 miles over somewhere else, they're doing something completely different with a different kind of weapon or whatever. So, I don't know. I don't know what else to say more. Just, yeah, edge blocks existed. It's a thing. Thanks again to my student Austin for letting me borrow those swords and kind of demonstrate that principle, how you can catch a sword that way. And yeah, thanks again for watching. Hopefully that dispels this kind of myth that edge blocks didn't exist in China. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Enjoy the break. Enjoy the cold weather. Enjoy all the seasonal things and spending time with people that you love. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Happy Christmas.
I know. I know you like the one toward the